Hi, my name's Phil Binks. Today I'm going to show you how to create a new job in pressSIGN. Creating a new job allows you to set the target standard that you want to try and meet, give it a job number, and set a variety of new parameters. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this is the main window for pressSIGN, and what we'll need to do is go to the top right hand side up where it says new job and open job. I've just highlighted that in red. We click on the new job button and that will launch the new job dialog box. I'll just take you in a little bit closer. So this is the new job window in pressSIGN. The first thing we have is a site name. Now your site name typically is just the name of your company. The site functionality within pressSIGN allows you to set up multiple sites if you are running pressSIGN at multiple sites and you want to be able to monitor what's going on in different sites, or if you're a brand owner, then you can select the printing sites that are assigned to send you and synchronize jobs with you. We also then see that we have a project and a job option. Think of a project simply as a folder which can contain multiple jobs. You can set a project name and that will then come up in the drop-down list of projects for your site. Typically, you'll need to only use the job name, but feel free to use the project window if you want to. Once you hit the job, you can select a previous project, or you can simply type in your job name and ID. This job name and ID is typically the kind of thing that you would have that defines the job name within the pre-press arena. I'm going to simply type test. We then have a functionality that says template. Now the templates are something you can't start with a template. You have to set all of the other parameters first and then go back and create a new template. So I'll show you how that works. So the first thing that we can really do is set a target standard. So here we can see I've got a Grackle target standard, and that governs not only the colors that we are aiming to achieve, so it sets the cyan, magenta, yellow and black parameters, the target values for those, but also any spot color targeting and gray balance targeting as well. Of course, if it has grey balance, then we're looking at tints too. So all of those colour values are set within the target standard. However, there's much more to a target standard, and that involves the scoring system in the background. I'll do a completely separate video on target standards because it's a very deep subject for us to get into. All I can say here is that I have a number of target standards that I could select. We can also see here there's a small tick box that says target CMYK values based upon paper relativity. So you can tell pressSIGN to adjust the CMYK values if your paper color does not meet the paper color that is specified in the target standard. So as an extreme example, if you were printing onto a brown paper but the target standard specified a white paper, then your CMYK values are not going to be the same because of the background paper color. Here we can tick the box and pressSIGN will automatically adjust the required CMYK lab values based upon the paper color. Below that, we can set the ink and paper. Now, the ink and paper, you can use it for 2 or 3 reasons. One, you can just use it as a register for the ink and paper that you have used on the jobs. So these values will appear in the database. However, the ink and paper settings also have an additional functionality, and that is that they are the critical for the dryback function that pressSIGN holds. I'll do a separate video on dryback because it is a deep subject, but just to give you an idea, you see there's a droplet here, and that means that this particular paper can have dryback applied to it. If we wanted to add a new ink and paper, we can simply click on the plus button. So here we can simply type in the name of an ink and paper mix, and you can assign it to certain sites. And if you have remote servers, you can synchronize that paper and ink mix with other servers as well. I have just a few different papers here, and generic coated paper is a typical one that I will add to a site. Below that we have our press configuration. We can name as many presses as we like. If I just show you the plus button here, this brings up a press dialog box where we specify the number of printing units that the press has. So anything between 2 and 16. Let's say that I've got a new press that's an 8 colour. We can specify here whether it's a non-perfecting, whether its configuration is front, back, top, bottom, a dual web, digital printers, which would typically be inkjet printers or dye sublimation printers, 2-pass printing, Flexo, and back front configuration as well. We'd also type in the name here just as the main name of the press. Here, if we have a normal litho press, we should be putting in the ink zone width. This can be millimeters or inches, it doesn't matter, and then the number of zones that that press will have. Just for your information, if you specify a Flexo printer, then we still are able to define ink zones even though it doesn't have ink zones. But what it does allow us to do is divide up the readings into the left hand side, the center, and the right hand side if there is a pressure difference between one side and the other. Typically you might have either 5 or 3 ink zones defined in this area. Let's go back to standard litho printing, and let's put in a realistic number and a realistic number of zones. Okay, and below that, pressSIGN will automatically calculate the size of the press. You can also then see that there is a configuration of units here, which you can just leave as they are if you want to. And beyond that, we can say that the data is allowed to be shared with other sites or globally. Once we've done that, we click on OK. I'm going to click cancel because I've already created a number of presses. So here you'll see a list of presses here. There is no limit to what kind of presses you can measure. If it will print colour, you can add it into pressSIGN. Below that we have our colour bar annotation. Once more, you can specify your colour bar that is going to be put onto the job, and we have a number of presets within pressSIGN already. The pressSIGN CMYK bar is a typical short bar that you might use, typically not for litho press because you want a full width colour bar. You might find that you've got a colour bar like this, which would be a repeating colour bar across the press. Colour bars are not limited again in pressSIGN, so you can use any press and any colour bar you like. We can create colour bars from this design area. Take a look at the colour bar designer in pressSIGN video that I've done in the past, and I may well do a new one to just update it with the latest version of the software. I'm going to just select pressSIGN CMYK just to make it a nice easy thing to look at. Here we've got dryback functionality as well. If you are measuring a job for the first time, you can define this as a printed job. If you want to calculate dryback for the job, you would specify that this is a finished job. So finished in pressSIGN version 10 relates to it being dried, and you're measuring the job once it's actually totally dried. This will actually link back to your ink and paper mix so that pressSIGN can calculate the dryback functionality between it wet and, let's say, 24 hours later where the job has been allowed to dry. Your client is where you can specify a client name on the database. There's a deeper reason that we have this client name. And if I go into the add button here, you'll see why. Hold on one second, let's just bring it into the frame. Here we can specify the name of a client. So let's say Color World. And we can then specify that they have got a copy of pressSIGN GPM running, and we can type in which server address that customer has. So let's just bring that over here. So we can say that they've got a server, that we give them a customer name and a description. We have access to download our jobs into their database, so we need a username and password, and here we would specify the IP address. This is all for the GPM, the global print management functionality of pressSIGN, and share jobs that are being printed by yourself and you want to share those with either another site or a brand manager. So that's all done under the client name area. For users, we can add users, or we can specify which user is going to be working with this job. I'm just going to say that it's admin here, but you can see there's a number of users there. That again doesn't really matter because you can open up pressSIGN as a client and then use it once you've signed in under your own username. Again, there's a video on setting usernames in pressSIGN within this series. Category is simply a named category for the database, so you can set up any category naming that you want, and it's all searchable because it goes down as a feature of the database. Subcategory is exactly the same. We can use the soft proofing functionality built into pressSIGN. I'll do a video completely covering the soft proofing functionality within pressSIGN, but here we would specify where the PDF resides so that we can use that in pressSIGN and compare that with the PDF we have on file. The client reference will be anything that the print buyer wants to name as the reference for you if you are sending it to their GPM server. After that, we've got additional job data that we can add into this system. Let me bring that into the picture. So job data might be additional parameters such as analog cell count, viscosity, opaqueness, that kind of thing. You can create any parameter that you want to monitor within pressSIGN as a new database item just here. So you can specify job data in there. A full sheet size you can specify as well, and that's based upon the press size. You can type in the run length, and then finally any additional comments that you want to make about the job. These are searchable within the database. Going back to the template, we can select a template once we've created all of the previous settings within the job. So what I can then do is click on the plus button and name the template and specify which site group that template will be used within. I've already got some templates here set up, so if I just choose, let's say, a basic demo template, then a new window opens up which specifies the site, the template, the target, and all of these things, just to make sure that we are matching those other template elements. If I want to change from client 1 to default client, for example, I do get a warning icon here to say that I've changed one of the parameters, but I can still then simply create the job. Of course, I would need to enter a job name. Once we've done that, we simply click on create. So let me type in a job name and I'll click on create. The job name is just up here where it says test 001. All of the other parameters are shown in this area of the window. So I hope that's been useful for you. There are a few other things that you'll obviously need, especially regarding target standards, dryback, and color bars. So be sure to check out those videos so that you can learn more about the more in-depth features of pressSIGN. Thanks for watching.